Hello everybody, hopefully we're live now. It's the infant feeding team, we're here again. It's Thursday and we're at the John Radcliffe Hospital, the infant feeding team here, and this is our infant feeding session that we do every week and have done for lots and lots of weeks, nearly a year now, can you believe that? So this forum is to direct questions to us about anything to do with feeding your baby. So that is if you're breastfeeding, if you're giving breast milk in bottles, if you're giving formula, if you're pregnant, and if you're weaning, anything
about feeding.
Anything to do with feeding, and hopefully we can help you. What we're not here to do is answer your questions on scans and antenatal appointments and visiting hours and anything else to do with your pregnancy that's not feeding. So if you have got those sort of questions, direct them to your midwives or to the session Ask Your Midwife, which I think is on a Monday now, isn't it?
Yeah, every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks with Wendy Randall, and she does those questions as well. But if it's urgent that you need to know, then ring your own midwives and ask them for the answers. We are midwives, but we don't always know the answers that are correct because things are changing all the time.
Absolutely. Midwives and lactation consultants. We had a conversation earlier, didn't we, with a student, and she said, "Are you midwives?" Yes, we're midwives.
We're lactation consultants too, so we've done lots of work on breastfeeding, and hopefully we do know a bit about what we're talking about. But what's more important is that you direct questions to us, and we can make life a bit easier for you if you're worried about things, or you're struggling to get the answer somewhere else, or you just want to check in with us and say hello. Let us know where you are, because some of you aren't local, which is even better. We have had people as far away as China, so
and Australia,
yeah, absolutely. So you know, if you're not from Oxfordshire, let us know, because it's so lovely. I think we're getting quite a lot of people watching now. I think probably up to about I don't know, maybe 46,000 people have watched us since we started, or have tuned in. They might have watched it more than once.
I was about to say there'll be repeats on that. We've got our regulars.
And if you miss this session, or you miss any sessions, or you have only just started watching us and you think, oh, this is quite interesting, then there is a YouTube channel on of Oxfordshire Maternity Voices Partnership, which shows the YouTube versions of these sessions. So you can log into those sessions and you can watch all of the ones that we've done if you're so inclined. It will take you an awful long time. But they may have answers. If we haven't answered the question well today, or you've got something that you didn't ask and you want to know the answer on, it's a good way to get information in the middle of the night when you're breastfeeding or feeding your baby and you can't sleep, just to double up and do something else while you're watching or waiting with your baby feeding. You can listen to what we're saying and you might find that helpful. So please do send questions. I can see that there's a big row of you already tuned in, which is lovely. Fabulous.
I love seeing all the faces come up. It's your icons come across the top, and it's really nice.
Because all we can see is ourselves.
Yes, it's a bit
when
boring.
We're talking. I can see the dolls behind me, and I can see ourselves. So we have no idea what's going on. So we will just talk at a screen and smile. So this week we just thought about a little bit about the expectation of you as parents when you've had your baby, because I think that it's quite a big shock when you have a baby, isn't it? When you suddenly have to make decisions about lots and lots of different things, or you know, learn to do a new skill. And being a parent is a huge, big learning curve without a textbook, really. And your baby doesn't come with a manual. There's lots of help out there. There's lots of books that you can read, but sometimes you can get bogged down with all of that, and then you're absolutely confused. And I think that you're very reliant on looking at Dr. Google when you're looking up something. You want to look up a question, and you might put a question into your phone or whatever and ask it, and you might not get the answer, because babies don't really come in a box. They don't really have instructions that, you know, there's general answers, but it might not be specific to what your baby does. And I think you have to sort of work on the seat of your pants, really, and just think, well, am I really worried, or is it just me being anxious because I'm a new mum? Is there a problem? What's the best thing that I think I can do, you know? And that's part of becoming a parent as a family, is making those decisions yourselves. And that starts from before you have your baby, that, you know, you make the decision about where you're going to give birth, you make the decision when you give birth about how you're going to feed your baby, and then when you've had your baby, you make decisions about when you're going to feed your baby and when you're going to change its nappy, and how you want to manage your life as parents in your family dyad. So I think that the expectation is that you make the decisions. As midwives on the wards, we expect you to make decisions about when to feed your baby, when to change your baby, when to pick your baby up, when to cuddle it, give it skin to skin, and you know, all the appropriate things, because it's the start of your journey.
I like the when to cuddle it. That's always. That's
Exactly.
what we're teaching you.
You can't spoil a baby.
Always.
You'll
You
grow
can't
its brain.
spoil your baby.
You'll grow its brain if you give lots of cuddles and milk. So you know, you can't spoil your baby, but you know, you don't have to be told when to pick your baby up. If it's asleep in the cot and it hasn't fed for a while, don't wait for somebody to come and tell you to pick your baby up and feed it. Your baby expects to be skin to skin. It expects to be on your chest. That's what mammals do. And so it won't probably feed as frequently. If you wrap it up and put it by a radiator in the hospital, it'll be very comfy and very tired like you are. So we would expect you to pick your baby up when you've got it there with you and cuddle it skin to skin. And we would then support you in how to feed and all the other things that go with it about changing nappies. We talk about things like skin to skin, hand expressing, changing stools, the suckling pattern, and you know, how to protect your milk supply. All of those things we support you with, but we don't do it for you. And I think the most important thing is that you realise that you are the parent and you make those decisions. No matter how tired you are, that little person needs you to look after it. And so don't expect us to come and say, have you fed your baby yet? You should be doing that, and you should be asking for help if you can't do it. That's the key. And if it's not going quite as well, making sure you know how to get help continuously and where to go for that help. And also things like volumes. Don't be told that you have to increase the volumes that your baby's getting. You can do that yourself. This baby is yours, it's not ours. And it doesn't feel like yours when it's in a cot in the hospital, or when you've just had it and it's a little alien thing that you're not quite familiar with. But we expect you to make the decisions for feeding and for picking it up and changing its nappy, and then we are here to support you in the background and to guide you, but not to do it. So think about that, think about how you're going to manage that time, and to make sure that you do lots of protection if your baby's asleep and not feeding well because you've had an instrumental birth or you've had medication. You know, make sure you do lots of stimulations and don't be asked to do it, just do it. And you know, that might be every couple of hours you do some hand expressing on day 0, and then day 1 you might not want to do that, but actually those are the things that you should be doing, and you shouldn't be told to do them. We would expect you to do them, and we would expect you to pick your baby up and put it skin to skin and to feed it, or you know, start to think about feeding it, and then we can come and support you, but we won't do it for you, because that's not going to help you when you go home. It's not, you know, it's not suddenly going to become your baby when you leave the hospital.
Many of you wouldn't want anyone else handling your babies anyway.
Yeah.
I don't like someone picking up my babies.
So it's about building your confidence up. We don't want to take that away from you. We don't want to disempower you by saying, well, you know, because we are experts. All we ever see is newborn babies. Our babies never grow up.
Yes, but we're not the experts in their baby.
Not to their baby. We know everything that there is about babies, really, because we've been here a lot, and babies never get older in our life. They're always, you know, 2 or 3 weeks old. So they don't get bigger in maternity hospitals. So we're constantly seeing newborn babies. That's all we see. So, you know, we sort of know what they do, and what we need you to do is to learn yourself what they do, and we will guide you and support you in that one. So don't expect us to come and put your baby on the breast, and don't expect us to come around and tell you that you should be feeding your baby, because that's your decisions, and that's the start of your journey as a parent. And I think that you'll go home much more confident if you feel that you've made those decisions from the moment your baby's been born and in your arms. You will feel more equipped.
Why don't you get the postnatal care plan, because that has so much about what to expect as well. There's a breastfeeding assessment. You'll tell me it's not in there now. We've taken it out. Typical. Ah, not there. We took it out. Oh no, we haven't. So I was just thinking about, when you're at your bedside, if you're here at the John Radcliffe, or even if you're one of the units, then this is what you're going to have by your bedside, and it's as much for you as it is for us. It has all the community teams on the front, 2 of which are 24 hours, so Wallingford and Banbury. So if you are home and you're having a bit of a wobble, you can always give them a call and have a quick chat. And then the next 2 pages are all about your birth, so if you're interested, you can have a look at that. And then we go on to a checklist. This is our daily checklist, so we check things about you, and we check things about your baby, and we ask you about the poos and wees. Now that's not just interest, it's because it tells us so much. And then if you go on to the next few pages, we've got a place where you can fill in all your feeds if you want to. It's not obligatory. If your baby's got jaundice, or we're worried about your baby's weight, or maybe you're a mother with diabetes, then maybe this is a good thing to be filling in, because it's amazing how the hours go by and you can't remember. You think you'll remember, but you can't remember, and that applies to us too. But new as new mums, there's so much going on. So writing your feeds down, if you think we might be wanting to know, is a really good thing to do. But it also says things like here, in this little section, it says about what are we looking for? We code it. We go, breastfeeding. Is the baby licking around the nipple but not attempting to latch? We call that a 1. And then number 2, rooting at the breast and attempting to latch. And then number 3, rooting and attaching with a weak suck. And then number 4 is rooting and attaching with a strong suck. So if you're there and you're struggling and your baby's only licking, then we acknowledge that that's part of the journey. So looking at this, it may fill you with more confidence. We then have a lovely section where we watch you feed and we sign it off. We teach you how to hand express. And if you're about to go home and someone hasn't taught you how to hand express, call the staff and tell them and say, I need to know how to hand express before I go home. The WHO, World Health Organization, says that every woman who is breastfeeding should be able to hand express before she leaves the birth environment. And the reason for that is it's your first aid. If your baby can't feed because it's too asleep, or your baby's screaming overnight and you're at home, if you can express a little bit, even to just a teaspoon, you'll be able to feed your baby. And then we've got these lovely pages here. And again, this is a great thing to look at. So look at them if you're in with us. Look at it and have a look. And it's very simple language. It says all down here, how often has your baby fed? What does your nipple look like at the end of the feed? How many poos and wees have you had? If you're ticking everything in the green, then you know you're doing a great job. If anything's gone into the yellow, ask for help. So this is your personal check. We'll check it, but you can do it too. So it's just empowering you to know when things are going well, and following the postnatal care plan through will really help with that. We've got loads of messages coming through, by the way, Naomi, because I'm in charge of checking the messages. It's always my job.
Well, let's get stuck in then, shall
right.
We have your questions.
Louise has come on and said, if I'm formula feeding when my baby is born, do I need to bring a bottle in my hospital bag? The answer to that is no. We will help you with that. We'll provide you with that.
We don't have every brand of formula. It's whatever we've got in the unit we've got. So we will give you what's available.
And as I said, I think at the beginning of last session, last week, and I said all the formulas are the same. So you don't need to worry about the brands as such. It's like buying unbranded paracetamol versus branded paracetamol. They're exactly the same. They do the same thing. So we only stock certain brands, and that's what we'll have available for you. But they are all the same, and actually you can save yourself pennies if you choose to go for the cheaper brands, because they will do the same. So Louise, don't worry, we do have formula here with bottles and teats. We have everything to help you with that, so don't worry about putting that additional thing in your bag, because I know what it's like when you're coming in, your hospital bags are so full.
And we will
bring snacks, that'd be a much better thing to bring in. We will talk
to you about pacing the feeds and making sure that you know how to make up the bottles safely. You should get a little chat about that as well. So making sure that you're giving the baby the bottle in the right way. So we will talk you through that too.
Tilly has said, we're 7 weeks now, breastfeeding is going really well after his 100% time is cut. Just wanted to say thank you for all the amazing support through these videos and the ladies in the JR clinic. Well, we're glad you enjoyed it, Tilly. I'm glad that's worked well for you. Thank you very much.
Everybody listen.
Yeah.
It does get easier.
Yeah, it does. Sarah said, how can I increase my milk supply? I'm currently breastfeeding, but I want to freeze milk. My baby is 1 week old. Quite early days.
I think keep it in your breasts and give it to your baby at this stage. And if you've got extra, if you're a bit full in the mornings,
mornings
you can take a little bit off in the mornings with a pump, or you can hand express. I think that your baby will, at this point, is calibrating what your body needs to make. So if you're doing over that, you're probably, if you're doing lots of stimulations and you don't need to, you will make probably more, you'll calibrate more, but that's not a bad thing. Too much milk is not always a bad thing, but we don't want you to be over full and to be overstimulated. So I think, make sure that all the milk that you are using goes to your baby at this stage, and then you know that your baby's going to be getting the right amount. Make sure that the weight gain is secure, that the P's and poos are okay, and that your baby's taking the milk off your breast appropriately, because then after 2 or 3 weeks you could probably start to collect a little bit of milk if you feel that things are going really well. But I wouldn't do too much at this stage, because we don't want you to upset the balance of your milk production, and this is your calibration period. You've got a window, it's time critical, of about 14 days, and this is what your baby's driving. So sort of upsetting that balance, if you're making a good amount of milk already, is probably not such a great idea. Obviously, if mums haven't quite got enough milk, then we give different advice. But if you're normal and your baby's gaining plenty of weight and the feeding's going well, just leave it for a little while, and maybe 2 to 3 weeks. But it takes about 6 weeks to establish breastfeeding. So your supply is very sensitive. The stimulation and the time critical state is very sensitive. So, just go with what your baby's doing and follow your baby's lead. And if you have extra milk, if you feel really full and you're really, bursting in the mornings and your baby doesn't drain the breast properly, you can take a little bit off till you're comfy and put it in the freezer, and that will start your collection. But don't overstimulate.
Right, good luck with that.
Hope that answers all right.
Claire, we know Claire. Let me see, open the whole question. Brilliant. So Claire's one, hello both. You know Claire. Bit of a non-urgent question. If I were to have another baby, is it likely that I would have an oversupply again? Now completely resolved. Yay!
Well done. So you worked really hard.
Yeah. So where have we gone? Now completely. Baby boy is nearly 9 months and weighs 11.45 kilos.
There you
Fantastic. Go. Powered solely by breast milk, thanks to your support in those early weeks. You clever woman.
What's
That's
your
amazing.
Superpower?
Producing milk. Too much in the beginning though, Claire, wasn't it? It was a bit tough.
Well, that's very appropriate from the last question that I answered, isn't it? That you don't want to overstimulate, because it is very hard to deal with too.
Yeah, I think there is a chance that you would have an oversupply again. It would be a case of sort of not pushing that supply in the early days. And I know that's contrary to what we normally talk about, but oversupply, as the name says, is a problem in itself, and it really is very debilitating. I know we're not in a position to be going out and doing things, but women who do have an oversupply find they're literally chained to their pumps or the baby. Well, a bit of both really, because the baby can't cope with that much milk. So it is an issue in itself, having an oversupply.
And you don't want to get into that cycle.
No.
Unless you absolutely need to. But I think that good positioning and attachment in the early days is crucial, because that can start the process of overstimulation, which can make loss of milk as well. There are some reasons why mothers do make more milk. Hormonal imbalances, for instance, polycystic ovarian. Sometimes it's undersupply, sometimes it's oversupply, and it is both of those things are really difficult to deal with, both of them. So it is very sensitive, that balance. So get lots of really good positioning and attachment in the early days. And hopefully you'll have the skill and the experience this time with what you've done all this 9 months to take you forward a little bit.
So good luck with that, Claire. I look forward to
and
seeing you with another baby.
When you have your next baby, give us a shout.
Yeah. Jane's come on. Hello, Jane. Joyce, lovely to see you. Alex and Naomi, warm wishes from all of us at Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support and Latch. Thank you very much. Warm wishes to you all too. Charlotte, one of our regulars, has come on. Hi ladies, hope you're okay. I've been invited for my COVID-19 vaccination. Brilliant, well done Charlotte. I'm sure you'd be pleased to have that done. Just waiting for available dates, and Alicia's now 10 months.
Goodness.
And she's sitting, well done. We've watched Alicia grow.
She's our COVID babies.
Lucy said, myself and my 3-week-old baby are being treated for thrush at the moment. Is my express milk still okay to give? As I've read that you need to discard it, and I was wondering if that was true. Depends when you expressed it. If you expressed it when you were before your treatment, if you're expressing it and giving it at the same time, that's fine, as in the same 24-hour period. If it's milk you've expressed previously, yes, it can reinfect you. So you would want to think about that. I would, depends how old your milk is. If you're doing it today for today,
if it's
that would
something
be
that you put
fine.
in your freezer last week when you had active thrush, it's probably not a good idea to use.
Exactly. So I think, think about when you've been treated, when it started, but you don't want to reinfect yourself with it. That is an issue. So think carefully. The wonderful thing about if you're able to express milk is usually you can get more. So although it's heartbreaking, and they say, don't they, not spilling over spilt, not crying over spilt milk. Well, actually, I think any mother who expresses understands why you would cry over spilt milk, because we've seen it. Lucy, assuming that you are able to get more, if there's any risk that this is in a period of time when you could, actually potentially reinfect yourself, it wouldn't be worth the risk. So I hope that explains what we mean. Becky's come on and said, I'm in Ancient, Oxfordshire, and I'm going to be studying midwifery in September, so watching for my own knowledge. I also have 2 young girls. Well, Becky, if you're doing it around here, you'll join us. We've had students with us today.
Come and spend time in our clinics.
We had lovely Sophie, first year student midwife, working with us today. We've had a bit of a battle getting through her paperwork, but we got there more or less. It's lovely because the students spend time with us. They spend time with us in clinics, they spend time with us on the wards, and that's part of how we improve skills within the trust.
And they teach us.
Yeah, they do teach us always.
So we look forward to being taught by you. There's always something new to learn.
Yeah. And they're often more up to date with current research than we are, so that's always handy. Amina has said thank you again for the time to talk and reassurance this morning. There you go.
You're very welcome. You're doing really well. Keep going, and I hope your little one gets better quickly.
Katie Curtis has said, I'm under raw barks at the moment due to the area I'm in, but I'm desperate for a feedback, and I'm wondering whether it depends on the hospital as to how much experience the staff have on the knowledge they have on VBACs. I'm afraid that's something I'm going to really signpost you to, Katie, to the midwives one, so the midwife sessions, because they are the ones who can talk to you about VBACs, and this is specifically a feeding session. Whilst one of our team, Elisa, does do the VBAC clinics, she's not here today, she might be able to give more information, but this is a feeding one. So Katie, can I signpost you back to your community midwife and ask them to all contact Wendy Randall when she does her sessions? It's every other Monday. You can put that question to Wendy Randall and she'll be able to give you an answer on these sessions.
She's our consultant midwife.
Yeah, and she's the lead on all these things. So I think she'd be more than happy to answer that question in her session. Yeah. So watch out for them. They're on Mondays, I think every other week. Oh, she had her last one. So is that the same lady? Yes, she had her last baby here. Oh, and I'm glad you thought we were fab. That's wonderful. So yes, have a chat with, get on to Wendy. I think it's your best bet. Emma has said, if you're trying for a baby and offer the COVID vaccine, no underlying health conditions, should you go ahead and take it? Stop trying for the period of time? Good question.
The latest research is on the Royal College of Obstetric and Gynecologists and the government website, so gov.uk. And if you go onto that website, you will be able to find the most up-to-date information about having your COVID vaccine. I think that you need to have a discussion with your GP if you're worried, or you could direct that to Ask the Midwife session with Wendy Randall, a consultant.
Yeah.
There was a session a couple of weeks ago.
Brenda's done two actually, Brenda Kelly.
So if you go onto the YouTube channel, you'll be able to pick up Brenda Kelly's sessions on pregnancy or thinking about pregnancy and COVID. There's been lots of myths going around, and the Royal College of Obs and Gynae released something about a week ago, the most up to date. So if you go onto that website, you will find the latest information on pregnancy, getting pregnant, breastfeeding, and who's appropriate to have those vaccinations. It's not really for us to discuss with you any further than that, really, but you can get that information and find it.
So RCOG, it is the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. So RCOG, if you put that into Google, it'll come up.
Gov.uk is the other one.
It's good luck finding that information. Diana's come, hi, question about breastfeeding and pregnancy. I'm feeding my 3-year-old once a day and she only feeds from one breast. It's been so for years. I'm 10 weeks pregnant and my breasts are going through all the usual changes, but it's mostly the unused breast which is been more affected. It's double the size, tender. The one from which my toddler is feeding, sorry, it's a bit long, moving down the page. From my toddler is feeding is more normal. I was wondering if the fact that the breast is not developing so much as the other would impact on the future supply from that breast. Wouldn't have thought so. No, it's just that one's still being used. So,
it is very tender at 10 weeks, isn't it? And I should imagine you're probably very aware of your toddler if she punches you on that side or catches your nipple on the other side. But you know, that's really good. The breast changes are exactly what you'd expect to see, and you know, sometimes the composition of the milk changes as you're tandem feeding and goes back to the colostral phase at about 16 weeks. So the milk becomes quite salty again. So some babies don't care and they will carry on, and some babies will say they don't want it anymore. But you know, it's perfectly normal to be feeding your baby while you're pregnant as you are, and absolutely is the, you know, it shouldn't affect your supply.
It shouldn't affect,
especially with all those skills.
No, I think you'll be fine, Diana. Kimberly has said, thank you ladies for talking about what to expect when decision making with baby in the hospital. With my first, I was in hospital for 3 days after a planned C-section, and the first night managed to give myself blood blisters all around both nipples, oh you poor darling, when attempting to feed my baby. I was so worried about waking others on the ward and making a fuss that I kept trying to get a good latch all night instead of asking for help. I ended up in a complete mess and a lot of pain and couldn't even hand express. I had to bottle feed in hospital and felt so upset with myself for making such a silly mistake. Luckily, after hand expressing and using a couple of bottles, we managed to successfully feed. That was nearly 3 years ago and still going strong.
Oh, we love you today. You're so brilliant, all of you.
Kimberly, that's
so
amazing. And I think that's a really important point. I think people do worry when they're in four-bedded bays about disturbing the others.
Yeah.
You're all going to disturb each other a similar amount, and actually once you're asleep as a newborn mum, you're out for the count. You'll only stir for your baby normally, and I know there will be some people who tell me this isn't the case, but it is normally the case. So please, please ask for the help, because it makes all the difference, because that's a nasty thing to go through, Kimberly, being so sore, and those early days then really have an impact going forward, as you say. So, but
ask for help, but don't expect us to do it for you.
Yeah, we're there to support you, not there to do it for you.
Yeah. So, because you know, look at you now, 3 years on, you've done it, and you've got the support you needed, but you did it, and you know, came through that, and it's just fantastic to hear. And it's such a lovely relationship that you have with your baby. Feeding for that length of time. It's such a lovely relationship.
Laura has said, hello both, I'm 28 weeks pregnant, first time mum. This may be a silly question as I haven't started any breastfeeding learning. How do you know how much the baby is getting and if it's enough for breastfeeding? Thank you. We talk about the 4 reliable signs, and any of our regulars will know all about it. In fact, if you could feed back, they'd be telling us now. So,
shouting at us,
yeah.
won't you?
So, first reliable sign is that the baby goes on the breast and the suck-swallow pattern changes. So they go on, and this is much more obvious when the milk comes in. They go on and they go chomp, 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 chomp to ask for the milk. So anybody who's seen any of our sessions on the wards will know that I say that's putting the order in. And then when the baby's rewarded with milk, they then go into long, deep sucks with pauses. They go suck, suck, swallow, suck, suck, swallow, suck, suck, swallow, pause. Or they might go suck, swallow, suck, swallow, suck, swallow, pause. And that carries on for a period of time. I'm not going to put a length of time on it. And then as the feed progresses, the baby goes into smaller, more fluttery sucks. They go little flutters, long pauses, little flutters, long pauses. That's what a baby will do, and a baby will feed somewhere between 5 and 40 minutes at the breast on one side, and we offer the second. And what you're looking for is that change. You're looking for that quick, 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 which is putting the order into big, deep sucks with swallows, big, deep sucks with swallows. If a baby is doing suck, 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 swallow, then we're going to go, they're not getting enough. We'd like to see a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2, suck, swallow, suck, suck, swallow. So that's number 1. Naomi's ready to go on to number 2.
So number 2 is that one. Number two is number 3, isn't it?
You'll get what we mean.
So number 2 is whether your baby's peeing enough. So you're looking at your baby's nappy, and on day 1, you're probably 1 nappy. Day 2, 2 nappies. 3 nappies. Up to day 5, you should start to see about 6 wet nappies in 24 hours. So how much is enough? How do you know if your baby's getting enough? So we'd say maybe before your milk's in, then maybe a tablespoon of water in a nappy and feel how heavy it is, because actually that's just a tiny little amount. And then as your milk comes in, put a couple of tablespoonfuls in a nappy and feel how heavy it is. That's about right. And that should be every day. Your baby should be peeing after day 5, it should be peeing 6 to 8 times in 24 hours every day. And it shouldn't smell concentrated, it shouldn't be a funny colour. It shouldn't be uncomfortable for your baby to pee. So all of those things you should see when you're changing your baby's nappy regularly. And most people say they pee all the time, and when you take the nappy off you see them pee. And that's great. One of the other things we say is there shouldn't be urates in the nappy, which is like little bits of brick dust. So if you were to put some paprika in your nappy, it would look a bit like that in your nappy. It would sort of be orangey crystals, and after about day 4 you shouldn't see those. You'll see them in the early days because the bladders are flushing everything out, and then after day 4, where you've got more volume, you shouldn't be seeing any of that brick dust in your baby's nappy. So that's the second sign that's telling you, yes, what your baby's taking in is coming out, and that responds very quickly to volumes. So your baby will start to pee that day if it gets more food. So the third one is number 2s. So that is your baby's bowel movements. So there should be changing poo. So they should poo every day. And on day 0, they pass meconium, which is like sticky black marmite, and it sticks to their bottom, and it's really hard to rub off. And that's everything that's lining the baby's gut while they're inside you to stop it from sticking together. And that, if that sits in the gut a long time, it can predispose them to being more jaundiced. So the more they poo in the early days with the colostrum, which is a laxative, the less likely they are to keep the jaundice levels, and they'll flush everything through their body really well. So it's really important that you give lots of colostrum, because that's your laxative to start that process and get rid of all that black poo. And as that colostrum goes through the gut, not only does it line the gut, but it comes out and it makes the poo change colour. So eventually it will go to, on day sort of 2 to 3, it will become sort of browny green, and then day 4 it should be sort of browny yellow, and then day 5 it should be definitely yellow. It might go yellow before that, but we would expect it to be yellow by day 5, and that will be seedy as well, because that's bits of fat in the poo, so it's sort of flocculent curd, and that's what your baby's excreting, the things that it's if it's getting lots of milk, then it will do lots of poo. If it's not getting very much milk, it won't poo. So on day 3 and 4, if your baby hasn't pooed, you should be calling your midwife, because that's, what goes in it comes out, and if you're not putting enough in, it's not going to come out. And it takes a while for milk to build up supply, so it will be 48 hours for milk supply to increase if you've got low supply. It takes about 48 hours for poo to get through as well. So if your baby stops getting large volumes, or doesn't get large volumes in the early days, so up to day 5, it won't poo. And so it'll get rid of all the meconium, because that's the laxative has sort of pushed it out. But if there's nothing behind it, if there's no changes in your milk supply, or you've only got a small amount, or it's taking a little bit longer for your milk to come in because of the type of delivery you've had, or you haven't done as much stimulation maybe, lots and lots of skin to skin brings milk in really quickly as well. That will show, and you need to be talking to your midwife. If you're at home and your midwife came on day 2 because you went home on day, the day after you had your baby, then the midwife will come, or you'll go somewhere to see her, and then she won't see you till day 5. If your baby hasn't done a poo on day 3 and day 4, you should be calling them, because they should do 2 pound coin sized poos a day. So it should be like this. Every day, 2 of those little sized poos every day. Most babies will do much more and have tsunamis, but if you haven't seen a changing stool, so your baby's poo is still really dark green on day 4, you should be talking to them on day 4. And if your baby isn't pooing at all on day 4 or day 3, you should be talking to them. And if somebody says to you that's normal, it isn't.
It is not normal.
It's not normal for babies to not poo, and babies do not get constipated that are breastfed. So it's not constipation if your baby hasn't done a poo, it's the fact that there isn't the milk in there to come out. And that's really important, that as parents you take that responsibility, and you don't wait till day 5 for somebody to ask you a question.
Do you want to show what that book leaflet is, so people know where to look?
Which leaflet?
That one you were showing. It's page 17 of this leaflet. So if you, it's off to the best start.
Off to the best start, you get that when you have your scan. At
36 week scan.
And you get a copy when you go home. So you get 2 copies. So you can read it before, and then you can have it alongside you if you've misplaced the one you were given. And that's page 17. But it also talks to you about how to get milk out if your baby isn't pooing, how to increase the volume of milk that you give to your baby, how to store the milk, and there's things about positioning, and how to position and attach, and how to get help when you've had your baby. It's not so much in here locally, but there is lots of support. It's got pictures on how to position your baby as well, amongst other things.
It's a lovely leaflet.
It's got everything you need to know in, and it's quite a succinct, concise, visual book. But if you are struggling, your midwife is the first person you go to ask for help if your baby is newborn, and they're the ones that you would contact first. There are local support services in the community, but they're up to capacity as well, so they can't see everybody, just like everyone else can't at this time. Times are different, but they are there to support you, and they're run by lactation consultants. So that will be Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support, and the Latch League, and also the Abingdon Baby Cafe. There's lots of support out there, and then also us. If your midwife says, well, actually, it's a little bit more complex than I can deal with, they may ask for you to contact us, and they may well email us as well. Yep. But you shouldn't just wait to be called, and that goes back to what we started with. First thing in this session is it's up to you to make those decisions, and if you feel it's not right, go on your instincts. Don't wait, and we do have some mums say, well, I knew that it wasn't right because I've watched these sessions and I was told, the 4 reliable signs. The 4th one is wait. But
I was going to come to that.
Alex will talk about that in a minute. But,
no, you can talk about it, but I just didn't want to forget. Because poor Laura's sitting there going, well, you've given me 3 and I wanted 4.
Well, we talk so much, it takes us so long. But actually, don't be told that it's normal, because it isn't normal. And so if somebody does say, call us, the feeding team, and talk to us and say, my baby hasn't pooed. And we can put some plans in place and send emails to you about making, tips to make more milk and things like that.
I think the thing to say is that some people out there do know, they will say that it's common for breastfed babies not to poo on a daily basis. That's fine at
Later.
6 weeks and over, not below. Your babies should be pooing on a daily basis up to 6 weeks. And babies that are breastfed, as Naomi said, are not...
Bottle-fed babies don't always go every day.
No, slightly less,
but
frequently.
Breastfed babies should, always.
And babies that aren't pooing, breastfed babies are likely to not have enough food. It's not constipation, that doesn't happen like that. So Laura, we've given you 4 reliable signs, and everybody else. The suck swallow pattern, that you see that change happening. That you've seen that the number of wheezes increasing on a daily basis till you get to day 6, and 6 every wet nappies. That you've seen the poos go from black to greeny black to yellow by day 4, and you need 2 £2 coin size from thereafter up to 6 weeks. And that the baby is gaining weight from day 5 onwards. So we do anticipate a baby may lose up to 10%, and we don't worry about that. But after that, they should be gaining every single day.
So about 20 to 30 grams. So a little girl about 20, a little boy about 30 grams. It's slightly different. And they should do that till they're 4 months old. So, they should be going up. They shouldn't ever lose weight after day 5. You need to really make sure that you're transferring milk. But I think that the most important thing of all of those things is to say that trust your body, because there isn't a full and empty sign on your breasts. There isn't a volume gauge to say how much you're getting. But all of those signs will reassure you, and that's your baby's feedback. So and is your baby happy?
Right, we move on. We've got loads of messages and we need to finish on time today. Joanna has said, how should breasts feel when your milk starts to come in? Is it normal for babies to struggle to latch deeply if they're hard? Is there anything I can do? I can try. Hand express, get some off. Just do a bit of hand expressing. Go stand in a warm shower.
Yeah, lots and lots of massage and things like that.
Yeah.
But also you can do it if it's really still a problem, and sometimes a hacker is very good at this point, isn't it?
Just
because
a bit of relief.
It's a breast reliever, it's not a breast pump. The hackers are those sort of little silicone bubble things that you can put on the end of your breast. and on your nipple, and that can drip the milk out and soften it. But the other thing you can do is a bit of reverse pressure, and you can just push back a little tiny bit with your finger and your thumb, and that will just soften the nipple around. But hand expressing is just take 5 mils off, and that will soften around the nipple area for your baby to get comfy. And certainly when your milk first comes in, your breasts are really hard and soft, and then the baby doesn't get used to that hardness, and it just struggles to feed. So just bear with it, because it doesn't last for long. But and your baby will realise when it gets it how lucky it is, and it's gorging on it. So you won't get your baby off. Yeah. But you can take a little bit off, or you can do a bit of reverse pressure on it as well.
Just go and stand in the shower. That will help too.
Let it drip.
Yeah, let it drip out a bit. So just try and take a little bit off, Joanna. You'll feel much more comfortable, and the baby will go
as well. Yeah. If you can take paracetamol, try some of that, because it is. I remember it very well, lying with my arms right out here somewhere while my milk was there. I couldn't move. So it's quite a funny feeling, isn't it?
Chantal said, "Hi everyone, I visited you when my daughter Robin was a few weeks old back in January. We've continued our breastfeeding journey, and she will be 12 weeks on Saturday. She started to pull on and off the nipple, mostly on the left breast. I'm not sure why she's doing this. Could it be a supply issue? Thank you for your time."
Have you started your periods? Have you had a contraceptive pill? Has anything changed in your life? Have you got coil with progesterone in it, or anything like suddenly changing? Sometimes they get a bit nosy as well, and they just get into the habit of doing it. And there's lots of reasons why. And I think, maybe just, does she do it at night and in the daytime, or is it just in the daytime that it happens? And I think what happens then is you get this cycle of overstimulation once they start going on and off, and then the breast gets really a strong letdown reflex quite often, and the babies don't cope with it so well. I think talk to your health visitors and just see if there's someone can watch a feed for you to see how that's going, and see if they'll come and support you. There are specialist infant feeding health visitors that your health visitor can direct you to if you're really struggling, and they can have a little look. But it could be several reasons why it's happening. Haven't you done well?
Joanna's just come back saying it's her first day home after a C-section on Monday, so you might not fancy standing in a shower. Just, I keep saying shower. You could just try warmth on the breast, a nice warm towel or something, some warm compresses as well.
You've got a washing up bowl, you can just lean over that.
If you can lean with a C-section.
Yeah.
So anything like that will help. Joanna has said, "Oh dear, I'm late. I had a problem with my little one the last few days. He's 16 days today. He stopped latching for some reason. The only thing that changed is that I'm on antibiotics since Saturday. On Monday he didn't latch to my breast at all. It was looking like he wanted to eat, but he couldn't get latched. Unfortunately, I had to give him formula." No, sorry, it was disappearing down the page. Just get it all in one place, doesn't give him much room. And on Tuesday he was fine, yesterday was picky again, and today everything looks fine. I'm just wondering, I'm having fun with my computer today. I'm just wondering what is happening. Is it me, or is the one being a little tyke? I'll put tyke as a word you said. It could be a little bit, I don't know, I don't know if you've noticed it in his nappies. Sometimes when you're on antibiotics as a mum, then you can see it in the baby's nappies. They look a bit more upset, they might be a bit more green, a bit more loose. I mean, they're loose anyway, but they look a bit more runny, but they are impacted. I mean, there are so many reasons a baby can behave like that. If you've been unwell, maybe your baby had a little bit of the bug too. I think if things are getting better, I would hope that just carries on.
Does he take the bottle away when you've given him formula in a bottle? Is he okay with that and suckling okay? Sometimes it's, and if he gets cross, do something different. So if you're putting him to the breast, just go away and try the other side, or get in a warm bath, and let him just be in the bath with you, and lean on you and just suckle a little bit in the bath with you in a warm bath. Sometimes that just allows them to relax a little bit, and it becomes more fun again. Are you doing lots of skin to skin? Because sometimes they will just bob over to your breast and attach themselves, and it seems the most perfectly normal thing to do. Try feeding in the middle of the night when he's more sleepy, and that might allow him just to override his conscious mind, so that he's not thinking about what he's doing, and that he just goes on and suckles, and don't wake him up Don't wait for him to be wide awake when you're feeding. Maybe try to do it when he's just stirring, so that he's not quite conscious and aware of what's happening, and he may just go onto the breast without thinking about it. I think if you're still struggling, give us a phone and we can talk through some other things with you and ask a few more questions.
Okay, Joanna, I hope it gets better. Victoria's come on. My daughter Fionn had a tongue tie snipped yesterday with the NT after seeing Elisa last Thursday in the feeding clinic. Should we come back to the clinic any point? As you only had it done yesterday, we've probably given it a little while before you come back to us, because it does take time to settle down. I would suspect you've probably found the last 24 hours have been quite challenging. That's really quite common. It's not an instant fix, as many moms will tell you. And it will take a bit of time before Fionn's got used to the idea of this increased movement the baby's got, and it's sore. It's sore at the moment. Her tongue will hurt. Poor little love. So see how you're getting on. We're booking for the 15th at the moment, so a week on Monday. So if you wanted to think about booking to see one of us.
Elisa works on a Monday,
she works on Monday, so she's got clinic appointments for the 15th at the moment. If you wanted to book an appointment, you could ring up and do that.
It's about the right sort of time, because you've sort of worked out what's happening. It takes at least 2 to 4 weeks.
And what you can do is book the appointment. This is what we're saying to people, because they do get booked up. You could book the appointment, and then if everything's going brilliantly, let's say you book it today and next week everything's going well, cancel it. Just do that. So just know you've got that slot. Okay, and see how you get on, Victoria. I hope things go well.
Keep going, protect your milk supply.
Amy says, hello ladies, my little Daisy arrived 3 weeks ago at home and I'm breastfeeding and it's going so well. Thank you so much for all the advice. Each week I feel this has set me up really well for her arrival. Just wondered, as she's feeding every 2 to 2.5 hours, my partner is taking the evening shift, so I get a head start with some sleep. Well done you. Before the night shift. I just wondered during the day when would be the best time to express to get the most productive supply. So if you're just doing it so your partner can give a bit, first thing in the morning most mothers have a little bit more than they need. If it's to push a supply, we'd be saying after every feed, wouldn't we?
You haven't got enough here, but
it depends on your reason.
If you've got a hacker or a collecting shell, you can just put it on one side while you're breastfeeding on the other, and you can drip breast milk and collect some. But remember, it's just drip breast milk, so it's not got as much fat in it. So it's okay, but you probably want to mix it with a bit more express milk as well that you might have used with a pump, because it will just give it a little bit more fatty content as well, because drip breast milk is normally the first milk. It's great for your baby, it's absolutely perfect, but it hasn't got the whole feed. So drip breast milk isn't as it hasn't got as much calories in it. There's quite as many calories, so you want to mix.
It's got lots of sugar calories, but
less
less fat
sugar,
calories.
But you want the fat calories that make your baby think it's had chocolate pudding. Yeah. So maybe mix it with something with your express breast milk as well, and make it go a little bit further if you express at some point as well. But you can just drip and collect too.
I hope that goes well. Victoria's come on again, Victoria from earlier, saying about Fionn. 3 weeks old now she is and seems to be constipated, exclusively breastfed. Is this normal? Well, no, not really. That's what we were just saying. We wouldn't expect a baby that's exclusively breastfed to be constipated. It would be worth having a quick check, just make sure that everything else is all right.
Is that constipated, really constipated, or is he just making a noise when he wants to poo? Because sometimes babies will grunt and groan before they want to poo, and they will make quite a lot of noise when they want to poo.
They make a song and dance, don't they?
They really will make a lot of noise, and that's quite normal. Or is it the fact that the poo is hard when it comes out? Because if that's hard when it comes out, then that is constipated. But if it's just that your baby's groaning and moaning because they're just feeling a bit bloated and they want to poo, then that sounds quite normal.
Or if you've
as long as they're doing 2 a day, two £2 coin-sized poos a day, then that's not constipation.
I think where you or I might have a little bit of a feeling in our tummies and we probably wouldn't do anything, babies really do tell you all about it. Anything going on in their guts, they'll tell you about it and make a real song and dance about it. Yeah. So I think when we worry about babies and we'll get told a baby's got colic or something like that, and you look at it and think, actually this is just a baby being quite normal. And actually putting babies over your arm in like the sort of the cheetah or the leopard in a tree, so where you drop them over. I've got a doll you can show it with. That's really helpful if you've got a baby that's struggling with its tummy, it's feeling uncomfortable. So putting them in that
baby's hand head in your hand if you've got a big hand, or you can do it the other way around and let your babies, nuzzle in your arms like that.
They dangle.
They dangle.
I love that position.
It's a bit like Jungle Book, when you see the leopard in the puma in the tree, and then you would just do some tummy massage like this, and that sometimes just calms them down. And the other thing is if you just sit them on your hip like this and put your hand on there, so they're sitting on your natural waistline, and you've got your hand around their leg, and then you've got your hand over your arm over their tummy, and with a bit of pressure, that often they do flop about a bit, but they're fine, and that gives them a little bit of pressure on their tummy, and they like that as well. But there's a lot of grunting goes on with babies, particularly at night. They're so noisy.
Yeah, it's like sleeping with an old man. That's what my husband said.
So, it's just about managing the expectation, and noisy babies is not constipation necessarily, but if it's hard stools that are coming out, so you've got little rabbit poos coming out, then that isn't normal for breastfed babies. No. Bottle-fed babies can quite often have formed poo, but it's unusual for a breastfed baby to have firm poo. So if it's coming out very, very firm, then you probably need to be talking to your GP.
And if there's long periods of time going between poos, then maybe
more than they should be doing 2 a day.
Yeah, so if that's not happening, Victoria, then she might need a bit more food. I'm assuming that now you're 3 weeks, you're not under the midwives anymore. You can
health visitor.
Speak to your health visitors or speak to us. So give us a shout. Emma has come on. She's 28 plus 4, and just trying to get prepared a bit. I'm hoping to breastfeed, but would also like to try and express my partner can feed a little. Is this something that can be done from the start, or wait for the baby to get used to breastfeeding?
I think it goes back to what we said a little bit a while ago. You may have written it before we said it, but it's about the expectation of just establishing your breastfeeding before you start altering your what you're asking your breasts to do. So don't overstimulate, but if you want to collect a little bit of milk, you can do first thing. And I hope that you heard that when we were talking about it. But I think that you don't want to upset the balance of that calibration in the very early days. Best put your milk in your baby's mouth in the early days and let them have it.
Right, I'm going to carry on because we've still got loads of questions and it's already 25 past.
Yeah.
Also, Amy said, also I find that she really guzzles when feeding and tends to choke herself. I've tried adjusting the ankle, then I hold it to be more upright. Doesn't make a difference. Is there any tips on how to stop this, please? I think it's back looking at positioning attachment with regard to, did you put a question above? No. Where positioning attachment, always thinking nose to nipple, let that head tip back, upper lip to nipple. It's really, really important that a baby, there you can see the pictures here, that's lining the baby up. To go on to the, and that's the baby going on. A baby needs to take, and this is the baby's mouth, needs to take the nipple to the back of their mouth in order to control the flow. If it goes into the middle, they can't control the flow. So really make sure your baby is coming on from there to there and on. And that you're not moving your breast, it's just the baby that's moving. So really get that positioning attachment right.
You start much lower than you think. You don't think the baby's possibly going to go on in that position. And then they open their mouth and they put their head back and their nose goes up into the air. They sniff the air and that nipple looks like it's going to go into their top of the mouth and into their nose space and the post-nasal space. It looks like it's going right up. That's the crux, it's positioning is the key to good breastfeeding, and if you don't line them up well, it doesn't work. So it's so important to get that right.
So Joanna said one more question. Sometimes he feeds for 1.5 hours in total. Should I still wake him in around 1.5 hours to wake him for every 3 hours? And also sometimes it's really hard to wake up, even after changing the nappy, taking clothes off. Should I leave him to sleep or keep waking him because instead of waking up when he cries? I've got that bit confused at the end, or keep trying to wake him up because instead of waking he cries. So Joanna, as long as there are no problems, as long as your baby is growing, we would be saying you just let your baby tell you when they're hungry. So we do responsive feeding. So that allows the baby to say to you, I'm hungry now. That's when they wake up, start wiggling around looking for food. The responsive feeding is a two-way process though. It also means if you're sitting there thinking, I'm feeling really full, can I be bothered to get the pump out or shall I feed the baby? You can feed the baby. Or if you're sitting there and you're feeling a bit low, and who doesn't at the moment, you could do with a bit of an oxytocin boost, put your baby to the breast. But from the point of view of the baby, we don't need you unless there's a problem to be feeding 3 hourly.
So if your baby's not gaining weight, then we would say don't go more than 3 hours.
Yeah.
But if your baby's gaining weight, you know, if you left it 4, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
As long as you get about 8 feeds in 24 hours. Because if they have a long sleep, they'll make up for it. When you wake them up the next time, they may only go 2 hours with the next feed to catch up. So they may feed twice quickly and then have a longer sleep and then feed twice quickly. As long as you get about 8 in 24 hours, that's what you're aiming for. If your baby's having 4 feeds in 24 hours and it's gaining enough weight, then you're very lucky. It does occasionally happen, but mostly babies feed at least 8 to 12 times in 24 hours. That's the norm.
Charlotte's come back. Lovely Charlotte with her daughter Alicia. She's just saying she'd come back and have another baby here, which is lovely. And she's saying, we're fantastic, Naomi. Thank you.
We need to hear that.
Hannah said, I'm approaching 28 weeks for the second baby, quite leaky already. Is this normal? Yeah.
From 16 weeks onwards,
Yeah.
you can find little splodges on your nightie.
Yeah, it is quite
normal. Yeah, a bit crusty in the morning.
It's sticky, isn't it? It's bits of like, it's like
Sugar.
dried sugar. Because that's what it is, it's a huge amount of sugar. We're the animal that has the most sugar in our milk because we're growing those amazing brains. Those brains we want to bathe in oxytocin with all those cuddles and chats and everything and rubbing your bumps. So yeah, so oxytocin.
If you're not doing it, don't worry.
No.
It is normal not to as well.
Exactly, yeah. Everyone's different. Chantal said no periods, started taking the pill a week ago. Hopefully that's the mini pill, Chantal. But that might be having an impact, mightn't it?
It might be. It might be that it just tastes a bit different, or the flow is changing a little bit, and it might be that if your supply is not the same, you might need to adjust that a little bit. It might be worth talking to us if it carries on.
I'm giggling because Laura's come back, and that was before arrival sign. She went, wow, so much information. Sorry, Laura.
You're not going to come back in and see us though. Your baby's not going to lose weight, is it? Not with all that going on.
You know what to do now. Sorry, Laura.
That's what we don't want you to do. With all this information we're going, we want you to stay at home. We don't want you to come back in. And so that's what our intention is that not only do you find this interesting, but actually helpful, and that you don't need to come back into hospital because you know what you're doing at home and you're taking the lead. You're the lead carers in your baby's life.
Absolutely. As I said earlier, you're the experts in your own babies, and you may not feel like it in the first day or so, but oh my word, you will
2 weeks time,
so
straight it over your shoulder.
Less than. Virginia's come, hi ladies, would you recommend buying a bottle of formula just in case I'm unable to produce milk one of those nights? What about having a husband involved? All I worry about is the bottle nipple is different from flow and confuse the baby. Is it used regularly? Well, we would highly recommend you just try breastfeeding in the initially. We don't normally advocate you needing to go out and getting a bottle. We teach you how to hand express. We mentioned hand expressing earlier on. The fact that hand expressing is your first aid. If you have any problems getting your baby on, the first thing you do is express. It's not to go and do a bottle. So that helps maintain human milk exclusivity. So there's no need. Partners being involved, a supportive partner can make or break it. I mean, having a supportive partner is amazing. We see these amazing teams, in our work, these couples that work so well together, and that makes all the difference.
Cups of tea, food, cuddles, changing nappies.
Yeah.
There's so many other things they can do other than feeding the baby. But there's no rules. You can do what you feel is right for you as a family. But we expect you to breastfeed and make milk. That's what we expect every mother to do until you can't.
Yeah.
So we would assume you'll make a full supply and that it will go well with support.
But no pressure. But when we say expect, it's that we anticipate your body is able to do it. If that's not your choice, that's fine by us too.
Absolutely.
Victoria's come back. Thank you. It's been a challenging 24 hours indeed. We'll try and book in. And then she's gone, just to add, she's been really, in capitals, unsettled, straining to poo since about 7 a.m. However, I think your magic, ladies, as I've just heard Anna smell a major explosion. Thanks again. Yay.
She's telling you that she's still around. They are so noisy.
Irene's gone, I'm recovering from mastitis, I feel well and the breasts are back to normal. I still have another week of antibiotics to take. Is it safe to use breast milk express while taking antibiotics and plan to freeze it? Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. No concerns when it comes to antibiotics and breast milk, no problem.
They don't give you anything that's not suitable for you.
We would have that conversation with you if there are very rare occasions where somebody's on a medication that is not compatible with breastfeeding, and we would make that very clear. And some of those women will be coming through something like Silver Star, and we know about that in advance, and we put a plan in place.
Very few drugs.
Yeah, very
few. You know, sort of chemotherapy, antipsychotic drugs. Those, you know, really big drugs. Not antibiotics and most things that are normally suitable for breastfeeding.
Emma's come on and said, thank you ladies, I'm moving on fast because we're at 33 and there's still more. Fiona's gone, hi ladies, I'm so grateful to you all for the support you've given me in my breastfeeding journey. I never thought I'd be able to exclusively breastfeed my daughter. She's 12 weeks now and will feed every 1 to 3 hours in the day. Is this too much? Hang on.
8 to 13 feeds.
Should she be on a feeding schedule? No! No feeding schedules.
Not a chance.
No hope at all. If you put that in, the only person who's going to be upset is, well, you'll both be upset actually, because your baby won't like it and you won't be very happy.
She's in charge.
Yeah, babies are always in charge. There's a lovely Latch poster. It's absolutely gorgeous. We have it up in the hospital actually. It talks about sort of gentle rhythms coming from the chaos. And it does feel like chaos in the beginning, as you all know, those that have had your babies. And eventually you'll see rhythms coming and you'll be able to go, you fed at this time. I know that normally at this point of the day, you'll have a slightly longer sleep. And that, you know, when the hairdressers are open, you might actually be able to book a hairdresser's appointment because they normally sleep for 3 hours at that time of the day. So just watch out for those gentle rhythms. If you try and force your baby into it, it's a recipe for disaster. Let your baby sort their rhythms out and you fit in with them, and that will work much better.
You'll be much happier.
Yeah, all of you will be happier. Joanne's come back. Thank you ladies, I got told he should be fed every 3 hours until a month's time. In this case, that's even better, thank you. Yeah, only if there's a problem, Joanna.
If he's reaching all his milestones, then
don't worry.
Give yourself a break.
Tess,
he won't go much longer than 3 hours, probably.
No. Tessa said, hello, my baby's 6 weeks and exclusively breastfed. He had a tricky start and his weight dropped from just above the 50th to just above the 9th. He's now tracking along just above the 9th, so gaining weight well, but I'd expect him to move back up to the centiles at some point. My partner and myself are not small. Our first child was on the 50th. Does this tend to happen in your experience? Should I be concerned? No, we don't.
That's his track, and he's just tracking it. He's not dropping, and that's, you know, he might have been born on the 50th, but actually that might be his centile at the moment.
And we know that
babies he's reaching everything else and pooing and peeing, and he's happy, and
it's not a predictor for what's going to happen later. You know, a baby may grow a lot later and be up on the 50th, but we don't actually want babies going up the centiles as such. That's too much growth in for them. So I think
once he's tracking the line, then that's fine.
We're all happy with that.
Yeah.
Ooh, I think we're almost at the bottom. There were lots of questions today.
Thank you very much.
Irena's gone, thank you. I've got conflicting advice on this, and it's great to have your support. This format is awesome. Well, we're glad you like it. So, not sure who's doing it next week. We need to find out because I've got a week's annual leave. So we'll see what happens next week. But there will be hopefully there'll be a session. And if there isn't going to be a session, we'll get our MVP to put a message out. Right. Well, I think, ladies, that was and all of you. Thank you so much for all your questions. And if Imi's watching, she hasn't said hello, I will call her because I feel dreadful. She's called me ages ago, and I promised her a call. So I will give her a call in a minute. Anything else to add?
Thank you all for your input.
So, thank you one and all.
And call us if we've suggested you do. Don't sit and fret.
Yeah. Get the help. Be proactive. Yeah. All right, one and all. Thank you very much.
We got another one?
Just looking there. Is that just? Fiona's just gone, thank you. I love these lives you do. It's so reassuring. We're glad. That's why we do them.
So important.
Yeah. Bye one and all. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.